All right, so we're convening for our seventh class, and this one is going to cover using the catalog to find books. So for the midterm, you are going to be looking up reference sources, which you covered last week, and you're going to be looking at books, which I'll cover this week. And I'll also talk in more detail about the midterm. So the midterm, the guidelines are as follows, and you have an attachment of this, but I just want to go over this verbally on video. So again, I want two books and four encyclopedia articles that pertain to your topic for your archival document. And normally, in normal times, the books could be hardcover, they could be electronic. Obviously, in our situation, the hardcovers are not a possibility. So both the books you're going to give me are going to be electronic books. All right. And the articles should not be as much of a problem because most of the articles you look at are electronic anyway. So in each of your annotations, you're going to start with a citation of the source in MLA format, right? So you're going to have a citation in MLA. That's one point. You're going to follow the citation with a descriptive and evaluative summary of the source. You must mention the author's argument or thesis in a way that makes it clear to me as the reader, and I'll go over that in more detail in a minute. You need to show me that you have read the source carefully, that you have thought about it, and that there is a reason why you're including it. Do not use direct quotations from the source. Paraphrase what you read. The reason is it's only 150 words per annotation, and if you have a quote that's, three lines long, it's not the purpose of it. So paraphrase. Do not put quotes in the annotations. Now, one important thing that a lot of people miss, and it will affect your grade, I want you to pull out the name of one individual mentioned in your source and explain why that person is significant to the topic you are focusing on. And so again, it could be a significant researcher, a significant political figure, organizer, theorist, but basically, I want you to go into it enough where you actually can recognize at least one person that is important to the topic that's mentioned in your source. Each entry should be free of spelling errors, so use spell check. There's no reason in this day and age to have spelling errors. And it must be a minimum of 150 words. So that again, do a word count. If I do a word count and you don't have 150 words, you will not get the 1 point. So make sure that you follow through on that. All right, so here are some examples of how to get 0 points using the Wizard of Oz as an example. Sorry. And the idea here is this is a very bad annotation. So let me read it. I'm assuming most of you have seen The Wizard of Oz. Okay, so this annotation the student submitted says The Wizard of Oz is a magical movie that has four main stars. So typo, right? It's four, F-O-R instead of F-O-U-R. There is a girl in a blue dress, a lion man, a metal man, and a scarecrow. They seem to be very good friends and travel down a road, yellow bricks, again, their grammatical issue, which could be very tiring since they have not the car or other types of transportation. Traveling long distances on foot requires good footwear, but the girl has red, again, reed instead of red, shoes on with heels, which aren't, again, typo, probably going to be bad for her feet. Generally, good walking shoes are comfortable and allow your feet to breathe. If there is a heel like this girl's shoes, it should be made of rubber since it cushions better. Even though they are walking a lot, they all seem very happy and do like each other and are very good friends, makes being with other people on long journeys more worthwhile. Okay, so a lot of problems with this one, right? As I say up above, there's no evidence that they've even seen the movie. They have not mentioned any significant points in the movie. They don't even know the names of the character. They've fixated on Dorothy's shoes and just decided to kind of kill time with that and focus on footwear, which has nothing to do with the story. There are typos, grammatical errors, and so basically, when I'm done reading this, I don't know anything more about the movie than I did when I started. So you want to avoid this when you're talking about your source. If I have no idea what the point of the source was or anything significant that came out of it, then you will not get the credit. How to get 1 point. So this one says The Wizard of Oz is a movie that came out in 1939. Okay, good. We got a year. A tornado blows through a town in Kansas, and a girl named Dorothy is blown away while she is in her house along with her dog Toto. The house lands in a magical land called Oz. She needs to find the Wizard of Oz who lives in the Emerald City so she can get back to Kansas. As she travels to the Emerald City, she meets a scarecrow who needs a brain, a tin man who needs a heart, and a cowardly lion who needs courage. The wizard gives the scarecrow brains made out of pins and needles, the Tin Man a silk heart, and Cowardly Lion a potion for courage. She cannot help Dorothy get home, so Dorothy turns to Glinda the Good Witch, who tells Dorothy that if she clicks her ruby slippers together 3 times, she'll be able to get home. She arrives safely and wakes up from a dream. So basically, that's the movie, right? I've actually read this, and I have some idea. Okay, so that's what the plot is. I have the names of the characters. So that's fine, right? You explain what the movie is, and you get 1 point. And it's clear reading this, even if you've never seen the movie yourself, the basic gist of what the movie's about. How do you get 2 points? Okay, so this is, to get the full points, you also have to show some degree of thought, that you've thought about it a little bit. So this one says, The Wizard of Oz explores the journey of a girl named Dorothy and her friend, the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and the Cowardly Lion on their journey to see the wizard who will provide them with assistance for their various needs. Dorothy needs to get home to Kansas after being blown to Oz in a tornado. The Scarecrow needs a brain for intelligence, the Tin Man needs a heart to have feelings, and the Cowardly Lion needs courage to live up to his role as the King of Beasts. In some ways, this journey can be read as a parable of faith and the path to enlightenment, with Oz being a kind of heaven one reaches after resisting temptation and fighting evil. Of course, if the wizard is seen as a god figure, the fact that he is, in fact, a fraud introduces the idea that there is no God after all. Throughout the story, it is interesting that women are portrayed as strong protagonists, with men being uncertain and ineffectual. Okay, so this one, I have the plot of the movie, but there's some thought, right? And you don't necessarily have to have something this profound. It'd be great if you did. But I just want to show that you've spent a few minutes thinking about the source and what the author had to say and your reaction to it. Okay, so that will get you your full 2 points for the annotation. Now, I want to talk briefly about the recursive nature of research. At this point, you might be feeling some frustration because you're not finding as much as you were planning on. And I will show you some more ways to get sources. But one of the things I'm trying to teach you is the recursive nature of research. And recursive comes from the term recur, which is to return. And so you inevitably, when you're doing research, the more you know, the better questions you're going to ask. And as I mentioned in the Thinking Like Shakespeare article, the idea is, you go from flower to flower getting your honey, right? You're getting more and more information, your pollen, and then you create the honey that's your end product. So, and a lot of students get fixated on, their research topic is changing slightly because they have to adapt to what they're finding, what they're not finding. And that's actually fine. That's actually what the process is supposed to be about. And I give the example of, let's say you've never been to a baseball game, you don't know anything about baseball. And, that's kind of the equivalent of, I'm sure most of you don't know much about, World War II or World War One, World War One and, ambulances, or World War II and, the Marshall Plan. But let's say you don't know anything about baseball. So obviously you're not going to know as much as somebody who plays for the Yankees, who obviously spent their whole life playing baseball and is actually a professional baseball player. I mean, you probably never will know as much as a professional baseball player, but if you watch baseball for an entire season, you could go from, what are the guys in the field and, how do you score in baseball, to the end of the season. You might notice that, they shift and, the players shift. So you might, say, well, does the infield shift really work against batters, right? I mean, is that actually statistically proven to get batters out? The point is, that's a much more sophisticated question. It comes from observation. It comes from watching the way the players move on the field in different situations. And you're asking a question that's a lot more complicated than, how do you score a point in baseball, right? So it's the same thing in any research process. The more you know, the more names you know, the more terminology, the jargon, your question is going to be more complicated as a result. Okay, so I'm going to stop this segment and I will pick up next.